Yep, and as recently I've been trying short beginning, long end.
Yes.
Let's do it. But enough about Freddy's sex game.
What? Let's do it. Oh right. Oh
Sure.
yeah. Sorry, I just thought you were like, yeah, let's have sex with Freddy.
I mean, why not?
I made a mistake. No, right.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of No Idea Yet, the show where we ramble about the things that we don't know, go away, maybe talk to a few people, Google some things, find out how ignorant we were. I'm your host this week, Freddie. I'm joined with Alistair.
Hello.
And Jonathan,
And it's a big hello from me. Thank you.
who likes to steal his own thunder. And this week we're going to be talking about something that you both actually know probably quite a lot about, but have never perhaps given it much thought. Maybe the background, maybe how it came to be, maybe the difficulties. We're going to talk about Google Maps.
Oh.
Starting your route at No Idea Street. Good luck, dummies.
Oh yeah.
So, I'm sure that it's going to be a bit of a simple or stupid thing to define because it is it. But I guess you can probably find a definition for it, Johnny. But would you like to have a little gander?
It is so Google Maps
Is it software?
is I'd say is it an app, a program? It's a GPS navigational software which maps the whole of the earth and is able to have routes.
Alistair?
It's a bit like, do I need to know where I need to go anymore? Nope. I'm just going to look it up on Google Maps.
Right, it's just a big bloody map in it that's interactive and tells you where you are
okay.
at that time.
See, this
It's
is the
basically
thing.
Marauder's map from Harry Potter, but in real life with
Minus the people.
you got the people, you just got the phones instead of the people.
Oh yeah, yeah.
This is
yeah,
the
no,
thing,
yeah,
'cause
you're right.
There's so much to it. I mean, it's actually incredibly powerful, as I'm sure you can guess. But there's so much more that it does now. I just saw my own timeline the other day of every place I've been in the last 6 years, and I was like, oh, okay.
I didn't know that was data that
It
was
has a
being
lot of
collected,
information.
but I'm okay with it because it looks cool. Apart from when I'm just commuting to and from work for an entire month, I'm like, wow, I have not left anywhere.
Pretty much. So I'll start off with the first overarching kind of point that I had. You guys remember SatNav pre-Google Maps, right?
Yeah.
yeah, just,
Like TomToms?
yeah, just take you to the middle of
Yeah.
a field. And
So-
like, yeah.
Can you name any more? We got TomTom, Apple
Garmin.
Maps, Garmin.
There's also ways.
Does- Is Bing Maps different to these? Did it buy one? Did it buy it?
Is Bing's a bit rogue, to be honest. I mean,
If you're using Bing for any other reason than it's the first one that opens up out of a new tab on your work laptop, then otherwise.
But it has its own maps. Did they make it themselves, or did they piggyback off someone else's maps?
Yeah.
That's what I'm wondering.
I'd be surprised if they made it themselves, but
yeah. I mean, I
I'm
might.
pretty sure
Google
Apple
did.
Maps and Google Maps are different because,
They
I
are.
think Google makes a bit more money than Bing, mate, if I had to hazard a guess. Just by a
Bing's
little
owned by
bit.
Microsoft.
Microsoft.
Like,
Ooh. Oh, side note: does Microsoft or Google worth more?
Like Google
Okay.
makes more money than
write that down. Write that down.
Microsoft.
Okay, so that's my first point, is that I think Google did it all by themselves. Maybe Apple bought TomTom. I'm not sure.
Because I was going to say, I feel like Apple was probably one of the first ones on the scene, and then Google did it. It like started getting, because I'm sure I remember people like, oh yeah, you got Apple Maps and it was great, and you got to either use that or like a TomTom. I feel like, and then Google Maps came about, it wasn't as good, and it slowly got better.
definitely
And now
like,
it's just
like,
far superior.
Long enough ago, it was like, get it just so that you can print off the instructions of how to get somewhere, and that was pretty revolutionary. Like,
Yeah.
before even GPS, it was just
Mhm.
like, this will tell you how to get somewhere with instructions, and that was like huge.
I
Now
remember.
you'd have to sit down with a road map by yourself and work it out.
I
Imagine how
remember-
much more time that took to go anywhere ever. Like even like what our parents did when they were, at our age.
You say that, but we waste time doing looking at TikTok videos for 2 hours. And then we're like, right,
Oh, God,
time to leave.
I'm not. I'm not suggesting that we make good use of this new time, but it is definitely time that we have been gifted by
Yes, true.
It's a waste.
Microsoft.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, I'll adding the next layer of questioning, the difficulty. I mean, the crux of this is Google Maps, but they can all come under navigation. The difficulty of what Google did, and I'm talking Street View.
That's outrageous, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh,
Do you think
Did they just do it once? Did they just go and like take all the pictures once and then? Because I know
no,
like,
they update it.
So
You can now get Google timeline things where you can see how a place has changed every couple of years, every time the streetcar's gone through it.
if you get a VR and then you download the I think it's free, or Wander, you can then. I mean, it's so funny because it's one of the first. So if you got a VR headset, one of the first things you do to show someone is you go effectively look Google Maps, and it's like for some reason it's so much more mind blowing in VR. But so what it does effectively is you're always in Street View. But one of the things you can do is you can choose the year of where you're at. So if I go into my hometown, usually you can say, right, let's go to like Thailand or wherever, but more than likely it's like, let's just go to your hometown and you'll be amazed that you can see your house and you can see it 5 years ago.
Hey,
as well.
that's where I am.
well, everybody does that, yeah, regardless.
Yeah,
Of,
but so with it, like in my hometown, I can go, I think it's possibly like coming up over 10, I think 10 years ago, and you can see there's buildings which have just been like that aren't there anymore and stuff like that. So as we progress even further, it'll be like, well, we can look 40 years into the past on Google, which will just be incredible, and you'll see the differences, which is just mad. So I do think that's such a cool little feature to effectively have a little time capsule, which is all recorded. Yeah.
That's right, Google.
Yeah,
We just called your ability to send millions, possibly, I don't know, of cars driving on all the streets on the globe a really cool thing. It was a little
I mean, it is. It is. Yeah.
But do you think it was difficult? That's what our question is. Do you think it's just money, like throw money at it? Or do you think it's difficult?
I think that basically, if you're someone who can tell a computer how to do something, then you can make a lot of money in this world. So
Did you just summarize coding?
pretty much.
I like
Okay,
Dragon's Den of whenever somebody comes on with like effectively a website they've made, and it's like, so what's your profit? Like 90% profit. Like there are like hardly any overheads if there's like a small team. Yeah, it's like advertising, the amount of staff that you have, and that's about it. And maybe an office space. You've got like no other overheads. It's just crazy profit if you do anything computers.
So I'm going to move us on to the next question.
There you go. Do you want to make some money? Just use computers, mate. That's what you need to do.
Just computers, yeah.
Yeah, just use computers. So Google owns Google Maps, as I'm sure you can guess.
Shocker.
Google is an American company, as I'm sure you can also guess, owned by Americans. Google is the first port of call for many people around the world to look at maps, geography, areas. You know that lots of borders are disputed.
Yes.
So where does Google draw the line? Literally.
Oh.
That's quite a good point,
I
actually.
mean, this is the same with me saying about like Tesla. There's for the autopilot things. They've probably got to put some code in of what's more valuable to crash into if they have two people, and it's like the car's gonna have to crash into something. You've got to program it to crash into something. Like with Google Maps, like you gotta put a line there, don't you?
Like, I don't know what the legality is. I just remember hearing about it. Like, they have to choose where borders are, and that can make people unhappy. And maybe they change the borders depending on who's viewing them. Don't know about that.
That makes sense, surely,
doesn't it?
yeah.
It's got to be like, dependent on what country you're in, is where the borders will be. I assume, surely.
Isn't that weird, though? That's something I'd like you guys to research, whether you can write that down. Google Map borders.
I mean, change your IPN. IPN? Is that what? VPN.
IP. Just IP.
Get a VPN
Oh.
just so you can see different borders. Whoa, never mind Netflix. I mean, look at Google Maps. Whoa.
Hey, looks like China owns all of Africa. Oh wait, it still does. It does in this one too. Oh wow. Okay. And I'd like to ask you guys about, like, if you had to pay for Google Maps, would you? Because it is just so useful.
Or if they
Yeah,
were
I think
charging
so.
like £1 a month, I would. And I'm sorry. Also,
That is nuts when you think about it as free, because when you think how good it actually is for a free
With
thing.
no
Yeah, that
ads.
is.
And
Yeah,
if you think
it's
about
just,
it, if they were to charge for it, me saying
do they
£1
charge with your data that they have on where you've been in the last 6 years?
That's true. But do you like
So how
if
you
you were
pay
to
for it?
charge £1 a month, like everyone would be like, yeah, it's probably not bad, and the amount of like money they would make from it would be ridiculous because you've just got billions of people using it. Yeah, I mean, it was always like, what is it? Facebook? They're saying like the data. So Facebook being free, the data that they collect from you and sell per person. It's something like 12p a month. So effectively, the value of your privacy is about 12 pence per month per person. That's how much they make. And it's a case of...
Seems a lot for me, but yeah.
God damn it!
I don't think I'm worth that.
That's quite funny.
Yeah, so
It's very
that's what it would
interesting.
cost to keep yourself well, not really, but what you're worth.
Well,
The
so
cost, mate,
just
is that you don't get to see some random cat videos and.
Oh, I love cat videos. Okay,
It's
so
always
just
cat
before I
videos.
send you
I
off,
don't watch that many cat videos.
I know,
It's
that's
the
like the
go-to
most,
for
the most
internet,
like
isn't it?
boomer thing to say about the internet, right?
When it first came, yeah, it's true though, isn't it? It's the go-to cat videos and the other thing.
oh. Okay. So before I send you off, have you guys got anything to add about thoughts on Google Maps?
To be fair, I actually have one that I've just noticed has gotten so much better in that. So last weekend I actually drove somewhere, which is a bit of a novelty at the moment, but
Ooh.
I went up to just north of London, and it was pretty phenomenal. The Google Maps queue thing now, like it could show you in live time, like where there are queues. And what's such a nice, like it's such an obvious and such a funny bit is that when I was driving back home, drive past Stonehenge, right, and as you're coming up to it, you can see on the Google Maps they just goes like. It's normally it's blue, and then it goes like orange and red if it's like bad queue. And just right next to Stonehenge, it's just a big red block because obviously everyone just slows down so much when they drive past it that then then it speeds up again afterwards. But like I noticed when we were driving around that it's way better now than what used to be. I know you tried it before, but obviously all it does is just how many phones are there in this amount of space and is there therefore congestion, and it's quite impressive. Really.
One thing to you may not know is that you can choose. So if you do a journey from your house to somewhere, you can choose what time or day to do it as well. So if you want to know, like on a Thursday at 12 o'clock, what's my journey?
I've totally made that mistake yet.
Yeah, it's.
Oh, I've got to do this journey. Oh, it only takes 2 hours. Oh wait, if you do it on a Friday afternoon, it's going to take like 4.
But it's
Because
so
you're checking it at
handy.
midnight and you're like, oh, it's quick.
That'd be fine, mate.
But it is so handy having that function because it's just like absolutely vital for some things of just know how to plan stuff. And Waze is another one. I know it's on a slide, but we could say like a little thing of that's where it's very much like a crowdsourced thing in the sense of, if there's traffic cameras, if there's traffic jams, you'd get users who then update it on the phone. So, I think sometimes it's a really quick thing. You can drive and you tap a button to say police camera or you tap a button to say roadworks. And so then it means you can have everything's live from people rather than from, that's one thing. How does Google know traffic? Is it because they're just checking on phones and saying, "Oh, you're
That's what I was just saying. That's what they do. They
I
just
think
have-
so, yeah.
Is that
they
it?
just
Yeah.
have everyone's phones and they know where people are, and so they just have like how many people are in this particular area, and if it's obviously loads, and they're all bunched up, moving very slowly, they can be like,
Are you
weird
forgetting
traffic jam.
that it's not just cars that does the for? You can choose a shop and it'll tell you if it's busy.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Isn't that?
and
Oh,
because there's some bloke who he does a meme about this bloke
Oh, I
who
know
like
what
filled
you're
up a whole little
saying.
shopping cart full of phones, all turned on with Google Maps on them, and then just pulled it down a street to simulate traffic, and it's like, my methods are beyond your understanding. Why would you bother to go to the effort of that? But,
I don't know if you guys have forgotten because I forget all the time, but I have my location permanently shared on Google Maps for multiple people.
Yeah.
Mainly it's for my mum so that she can see when I'm home. But like, it's really handy. Like, if you have a certain couple of people
great.
that you need to know where they are.
Every time I go
It's
see my
useful.
grandma, and she's always asking, "Where's Freddie?" I can go, "Oh well, let's have a look, shall we?"
He's back
Zoom right
behind
in.
you.
Oh,
He's behind you. Yeah, we're gonna do that in a couple of weeks. That'll be really fun.
will do.
Surprise.
I have it with it's that thing as well. I think it's changed now that the previously thought of saying like me and Abby can both see where we are at any time, and the thought of firstly like, oh, are they like checking up on you or spying on you? And it's like, well, no, it's just because most of the time it's not like for some reason it's the same with some people thinking that the government wants to know what you're doing. Like the government doesn't care what you're doing. Like in
Unless
the same way of
you're
like
doing something interesting in the
Yeah,
government's
that's
eyes.
if like for me and Abby, it's just like they're like coming home. How far are they? That's how far away they are. So it's simple as that, isn't it? You're just like, cool. I think it
Can be
depends.
reassuring.
Where are you
as
today,
well.
honey?
Yeah, if you got trust issues, I
Oh,
think
you
that's-
spent a long time with the.
if you got trust issues, I think that's where that can go wrong. But realistically, for the day to day, it is just super handy to be like, oh, cool, you're here, and that's what's going on.
And can find a phone if you lost it.
That's
But
true.
that's a
Yeah.
bit different.
Mm.
Well, guys, thank you very much for indulging me on the first half of Google Maps, which I hope you don't find too obscure but obvious, if that makes sense.
It's a nice one. It's a nice one.
I think we might find some stuff. So I'm just going to send you away with mainly who owns who in the navigation world, You've got Microsoft, Waze. Maybe you might find that Microsoft owns Waze, or Waze owns Google, and it was always there all along.
That would be pretty huge, to be honest.
Can you find out a little bit maybe about borders and the costs? I have no, like you said, it's free. How much does it cost to maintain Google Maps? It's got to be possibly
Satellites, man.
$1 billion. I don't even
They've
know.
got to
Like,
fire
how is it
satellites
free?
into space, don't they? Surely that is a huge cost.
I just don't.
It's actually
understand.
pretty low running costs once they're in there, but yeah, it's pretty.
Getting
it's up
there.
there even.
They have cars driving
In
around
there,
all the
yeah.
time. I don't know. Would you like to be a Google Street driver? Doesn't matter. Okay, we're getting off topic. Anyway, thank you very much for the first half. We'll see you in a week when you've found out a little bit more.
See you after the break.
Hello and welcome back after the break. You're joining us this week, Freddie, Jolly and Alistair, to talk about Googly Maps. That's right. So we've been away for about a week, plus or minus a few days, and we've done a little bit of research, hopefully not only using Google, to find out some fun facts about the truth of Google Maps. So, would anyone like to kick us off with, don't tell me you had to actually go and get a definition of Google Maps.
Well, come on now. I don't think there'll ever not be a definition.
Okay, go on then. Bring it.
So this was actually from Wikipedia. It's just really, it was a description more than a definition of. Google Maps is a web mapping platform and consumer application offered by Google. It offers satellite imagery, aerial photography, street maps, 360-degree interactive panoramic views of streets, real-time traffic conditions, and route planning for travelling by foot, car, air, and public transport. I mean, they've got a lot going on. Also, a side note, we were chatting about Microsoft versus Google for like the value, and Microsoft is worth $2.204 trillion, and Google is only $1.834 trillion.
Only, you know.
Number one is Apple at 2.447, then it's Microsoft 2.204, then it's Saudi Aramco 1.867, then Google 1.834, and then it's Amazon 1.632.
Which one would inconvenience you the most if it disappeared tomorrow?
Microsoft.
Surely Google. Why
Well, yeah, but-
Microsoft?
Because
You
all
still
of my
work.
work
right?
Probably the
computers-
Saudi one, because then we wouldn't have any like oil. We wouldn't be, like,
Because
driving
if you
it.
think- if you think of like any work that, well, for me at least, I use like computers at work all the time. So if they didn't have Microsoft, the computers wouldn't work.
That's
And then
true.
no one's going to be getting Apple or Linux, realistically. So it'd be like, sorry, Microsoft just shut down. I'm like, oh, well, that's... Also, I'm sure they've got fingers and loads of pies for how they just function in the entire world. Also, NHS probably works with Microsoft, like 95. It's super old and dated.
Okay, fair
you
enough.
know.
Okay, I get the point. Okay,
I'm going to keep
that's-
going. I mean,
that's true.
think of any computer you ever have anywhere, it's Microsoft.
Okay,
That's how
I
they're
get
so
it.
big. They charge.
Ouch.
They charge for every computer. You know, that's...
Yeah, it's true.
I mean,
It's
Apple
true.
Apple is surely just marketing of why they're worth more.
Apple's just outrageous
We sell
luxury
less
brand. Isn't it?
computers for
Yeah,
so
I mean,
much more.
Luxury
Not-
brand
I'm
selling at luxury
glad.
prices with minimal cost of production.
But there is the benefit of there being not a monopoly. If it was just Microsoft, like, they would have our balls completely. At least
But I
there's a
prefer
slight
Microsoft
competition.
than Apple because it's Bill Gates is still going
Fair enough.
for
Well,
it.
that is not the conversation today. We are talking about Google Maps. So,
Nice, bring it back, Fred.
Alistair,
number 4,
would
though.
you like to give me a hint about some things that you researched?
So I actually did a lot of probably the most practical research I've ever done on the podcast, as I've driven over 500 miles in the last 7 days, all of which are with Google Maps. And I also had a chat with someone who happens to be an avid Waze user. And so that
Waze.
was, basically his main point, which is that he's driven with it for years, and he said he's never had a police car come out as a surprise from Waze. And I thought that was quite interesting, quite impressive.
Does Google
but-
Maps...
Because Google Maps, like I said, it does the
I don't
speed traps,
understand.
and it does. Yeah, that's what I thought was quite strange.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically, Google Maps does the speed cameras and the speed traps, which they actually bought because they bought Waze in,
Oh.
acquired by Google in 2013. Waze was. So there
So
you go.
Waze is just owned by Google Maps.
Right.
or
Oh, I thought it was
Google
really
anyway,
weird.
so-
I was just cool. If you want slightly worse graphics, then use Waze.
No, but the one thing, as my brother showed me, I was like, oh man, Google Maps is rubbish. Once Google Maps for Nintendo's anniversary, you could have your little arrow as Mario Kart instead on the maps, and
Yeah.
now you can, if you click and hold the the actual arrow when you're on a direction, you can change it to a car, pickup truck, or an SUV, and they're very
I've got a
like,
pickup
basic.
truck.
But if you go to Waze, as my brother showed me, you can get a Halo Warthog or a Ghost, and just a bit of gamer stuff. So you can go in.
You get
It's
Pac-Man and
funny
it goes
'cause-
constantly wacka 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 the entire journey.
And it eats the other cars. I love that you guys have focused it straight away on.
Oh
like,
no, he's
little-
using Waze.
little things like this, because like this is perfect. I don't know, not capitalism or consumer. It's basically like you're like, oh, this company's so fun. Oh, it's so down to. Oh, it has little things that you can change. Isn't that so fun? And I'm here reading things about like how Google can sell the data from where you've been to advertisers, and it can release tracking data of where you've been to the police.
Right.
And I'm just like, but your car can be a pickup that's green. And it's like, isn't that so cute?
There was definitely very much like as soon as you go into the whole, how does it make money then? Oh, it's free. It must, it's pretty impressive the way they make money. And
Well, can you tell us a bit about that then?
So
So how does it make money?
So basically, adverts, which are impressive. I don't know about you, but I think Google adverts are very. They're not, like pop-up ads are incredibly annoying, right? That's what people think of when you think of internet adverts.
Google.
But yeah, monetizing what Google do, like I said, AdSense, they've got Google Maps is like so integrated with adverts that it will just be, when you're just looking at it and there's like different restaurants pop up, and you're not really, you don't give that a second thought. That's again a lot of that is advertising, and they apparently actually have it on the right of the screen in small, sort of,
because
small
I
things.
was looking a bit about that, and the same thing. You're thinking like, oh, it's just like restaurants in the local area, but it's not. Of like, it may be locations
Very
to a
specific
sense,
ones.
But it's like
also
just
just
subliminal,
being like, yeah, and it's be like, oh, actually, this one's number one. Because
but it'll
they
be like
paid
all the
money to
McDonald's.
Google.
You'll definitely see all the McDonald's really clear and stuff like that. I'm sure,
Yeah, and I guess when you say it's selling your data, it's more of a case of, in that sense of, a company's like, can we pay Google to just to infect people with where our location is?
Right.
But yeah,
It's nuts.
Did you
but
see? Have you guys got quite a lot of? How was this restaurant, or how was this place? And it's like, it seems like quite nice, but 100%, as I was reading, it's trying to figure out your behaviors and the kinds of places you enjoy going to, and to sell you more of that and to push that more onto you. And it's all just behavioral algorithms trying to figure you out. It's like, oh, okay.
part of you is like, oh well, I don't want them to do that, but the other side is like, the idea technically is, they just want to make money from you, but the actual, you think it's parasitic, but technically it's symbiotic, because if you're up for it, it's like, actually, when advertising works well, it's a case of, that's actually exactly what I want, and
exactly. If when you can go live inside a machine and it actually knows you quite well, that'd be better than if you're a hermit who you just get a generic things.
Is it Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, of where like he goes up to a machine and like asks for something and it just appears in front of him, that kind of thing. I don't know. Just
many
something where,
sci-fi, I think.
a lot, but a lot of the time we don't know what we want half the time. So sometimes having an algorithm, because the biggest thing is people don't like choice, and I'm a strong believer of that, especially working at like selling people stuff. Be like, well, what do you want? We've got hundreds of options. I want you to give me 2, ideally, maybe 3. Realistically, that's what people want, is minimum choice.
Well,
and then
people want minimum, but also they don't like no choice, right? So that's the
I saw there's a study that's like, if you're given one choice, you're not happy. If you're given lots of choices, you're almost as unhappy, but you're a bit happier. If you're given 3 or 5, bang on, like you're much happier.
And that's not me. I don't know why I'm like rooting for algorithms, but I think usually you always assume that like us selling, like, oh, they know exactly what you're going to do. It's like, there's nothing nefarious. They're not looking to see where you live.
They want your money, and they
want your money.
Yeah, they want your money. It's as simple as that, and
Yeah, and if you're willing to give it, then it's consumerism.
Also, I mean, my little thing with that is like those adverts. I think there's definitely slightly more worrying signs further down the line for sure. But right now, it's like I get given adverts for things that I actually will buy, and like I've had a few purchases that are things that are actually really cool. I've got a obnoxiously loud horn on my push bike, which I would never bought. I think I only recommended it. No, mate. Honestly, I when I bought it, I was sat in the living room and I just like looked at it and pressed the button and like was ears ringing for like quite a few seconds afterwards. It's just
this may be illegal.
I think it's from China and I think it's illegal. So haven't even using it lately, obviously. Because But I just watched a video of a guy who like attached an air horn to his bike. And I think I got an advert for it like the next couple of days.
I mean, we're going off topic to be honest, but there's that thought of like how much of my friend he applied for a job and it was for, I think it was cyber security or something like that. It was like an internship thing, And he said he's even a bit worried for like any searches he's doing because they'll do a full sweep on you because it's for the government with cybersecurity. So like they will get everything. So who you like your relatives, they'll need to know who if they're affiliated with anyone, all your finances to know if you're in any issues for bribery or stuff like that. So they do a full sweep of your entire life. And he said he's even got used to just turning his phone off just in case, because that bit of a paranoia about like, I swear, usually it's put down to being like, oh, it's actually just because you were searching for it as you've typed it in a few times, but sometimes on your messenger, like you'll type something and then get an advert for it later. Is that because you just like when you're thinking about a car and you see the car, it's just coincidence and you're looking for it, or is it?
I don't think it's coincidence.
That
like I said, it's all all the data's there. I don't know, but yeah.
Anyway,
so guys, before you get off topic, so Alistair,
I was about to go back on
research?
topic. So yes, I was going to say
anything about borders or.
Well, I have done borders. Yeah, I'll go on to borders just after that. I was going to say quickly first,
after this,
just on the whole thing. On the actual, like I said, the actual practical, using it loads. Basically, like I said, I did 12 hours of driving over the weekend, and then I did about 5 or 6 yesterday. So yeah, a lot. And the traffic thing on Google Maps now is actually fantastically accurate. And I thought I'd actually take a screenshot to show you guys, which I will explain to the listeners. That was on my way back today, and it's literally the red bit, and then so it's red. Red is like basically stationary traffic. Orange is like not too bad, and then the blue is normal. And this happens to be Stonehenge right there. So it's literally it's red right by where Stonehenge is. Like, yeah.
And a neat little thing, if you're going to go Stonehenge without any queues or paying for it, there is literally a B road which runs alongside it, and you can park there. You can walk into a field, and then you can
see it from the A road. Like I said, the reason that traffic is there is just because you can literally see it quite clearly. So people just slow down massively for that little bit. But
can I just ask a quick question?
Yes.
So yes, you can see the traffic. Does that actually affect the choice? Do you ever change your route because of it? Do you not use the thing where because Google tells you, there's a faster route? Right?
No, it does. But no, the traffic is it's honestly that's the other thing. So the estimated arrival time and everything was again spot on. In a way that sat-navs never used to be right. They used to always overestimate.
It changes it as you drive.
It changes
I've tried to beat it many times.
Oh yeah, it changes as you drive. But like I said, but then if there is a new route, it will basically say, do you want to go this new route? If yes, we found it's a few minutes faster, but it knows with all the traffic, and it knows speed limits and it knows everything like that. So yeah,
usually it automatically starts to do it unless you X off it as well.
Right? Yeah, exactly. I want to go the longer route. Like yeah, but but the other there's interesting one as well. They're bringing out a new thing next year where if you've got an electric car, so this is a little throwback to a couple of weeks ago. If you've got an electric car, they will plan your route for you with as many electric car stops as possible, or as the optimal amount of that.
Will it be like an option, like avoid motorways or avoid tolls?
Yeah, it's the same as that basically. I think.
Yeah,
just
realistically, like unless you're doing like hundreds of miles, it's just not going to be an issue.
Nah, of course not.
But I appreciate that as like a thing people want to know.
For sure. And then so in terms of the borders, Fred. So North Korea was added in 2013. Not really a border thing, but just as an interesting point of like that was quite a big deal. Again,
was it blacked out beforehand?
Save that for another week.
It's
blacked out anyway, mate, because they've got basically no electricity apart from Pyongyang, even. But yeah, basically, Google consults with local governments and other official bodies to help make a decision. I don't know why it just thought I said Siri. That was weird. So anyway. Google consults with local governments and other official bodies to make a decision about where to draw the lines. However, this is the big one that I kind of would guess that, but it shows borders differently depending on where you're viewing it from.
Yeah, I found that too.
Yeah, so
especially like, India and
exactly,
Kashmir.
and Pakistan. Yeah, exactly. Which, to be fair, it's like, let's just make everyone happy by that,
I saw they have a dash. Usually it's a hard grey line for all the borders, but when it's undisputed,
it's a dotted line,
a dashed grey line. Yeah, so like
disputed. You mean disputed?
What did I not say disputed?
Oh, you said undisputed. Well, it's undisputed, and I was like, yeah, everyone agrees, right?
Great. Yeah.
But because I saw there was actually a release by a Google executive somewhere along the lines. I think 2015, can't remember. There was like politics is hard, and it's hard to make everyone happy or something. And it's like it's true. Like it's there's multiple. I actually found. There's especially even England's islands sometimes, and I saw some stuff about have you ever typed in Palestine, nothing will go. It'll just go to the area, but it won't show anything at the moment.
The general censorship of that actually, I think it's something I think it's worth mentioning because I don't think it's super broadly known. But when you look at like statistics for it and how many people in the world use it, it's not as many as you think. And then you remember literally no one in China uses Google Maps or any Google services whatsoever.
Oh, wow.
So yeah,
They've got 1 billion users, don't they? Google
it's got,
Maps.
yeah, billion. Yeah, that's what I read. It was 1 billion users in per month. Sort of average. So yeah.
At the moment, though, its downloads are over 5 billion.
Because I'm guessing that's...
YouTube has over 10 billion downloads. Can you believe that on individual devices? Google Maps comes in third or fourth or
10
fifth somewhere
billion with only like 7 in the planet, and usually in 2.4 of China don't use that. 2.4, 1.4.
Oh, yeah, it's mad. It's mad because
1.4
remember
in it,
one of the things we looked at population of how just colossal China is. I can go into a bit about the origin.
Yeah, sorry, 1.4 billion, not 2.4 billion. But yeah,
well,
sorry, basically, like I said, all of the things you classically associate with using on the internet, China basically has their own versions, and they've blocked all the other ones. So yeah,
just is that government owned as well? So I'm assuming that they have
hugely, yeah, everything is.
Everything's government owned there.
Yeah, absolutely mad. So a bit into the origin, because there's also, Abby was saying like, is Google Earth before Google Maps? And it's not. So Google Maps was in February 8th, 2005. Google Earth is February 22nd, 2010, and Google Earth is 3D. It's just more for like looking at stuff, whereas Maps is specifically roads, effectively.
It's for being the first thing that you show your grandparents about technology, and they go, "Wow!" But like you can't go too far.
Yeah, and now this is Pornhub.
but yeah, so it's one's for looking at the cool, but the other one's actually for navigation. But effectively, they work off satellites. That's what we need for GPS, global positioning
systems.
Wow, I should know that.
I don't guess, but yeah.
Yeah, so in total, there's at least 24 operation satellites in the GPS constellation, with 3 to 5 additional satellites in reserve. So as of 2019, there was 29 operational satellites. The US Air Force monitors and manages the entire system and has...
So, like, Google doesn't own the satellites, right? It's not like Google has a special space launch space where it like throws them into orbit.
Yeah, it's the US Air Force which controls all the satellites on GPS, apparently, which is mad. And they've committed to having at least 24 satellites available for 95% of the time. But that's, because it started, effectively, the Cold War. That's what started people just shoving satellites into space. And Russia was the first with Sputnik 1 satellite. And the first they were just getting aerial images. Sputnik, sorry. First they were getting just aerial images, and then it went to actual, let's see if we can actually start tracking it. And in 1973, the GPS project was started by the US Department of Defense. And that's where it all went to. So that's...
it's for submarines originally, right, I believe? No? I thought it was for submarines originally, right? To track them.
Oh.
I think.
Fair play. Yeah.
Cold War thing, yeah.
I see what you mean. So for what was the first kind of GPS and sat-nav, 1981, Honda released the Electro Gyrocarter, was first commercially available car navigation system, and it used an inertial navigation system, track distance travelled, start point and direction, heading. Also, it was the first with a map display, and then in 1989, Magella Navigation Incorporated unveiled Magella Nav 1000, was the first handheld GPS receiver for $2,900. And like, what's cool is in 1990, the US military made GPS less accurate because they were worried it would give adversaries a step up on the military. So for non-military GPS, they made it bad, effectively. So you couldn't be as accurate.
Yeah, I mean, know that Google does blank out certain areas, right? Like,
really?
I don't know how it gets decided where, but I found somewhere that
army bases
the
and
top
things.
of Google is coloured over some areas for security, mostly in the US, such as the rooftop of the White House and several other Washington DC buildings. And there was do you mind if I just quickly sideline with a fun fact? In 2010, October, Nicaraguan military commander Eden Pastora stationed Nicaraguan troops on the Isle of Calero on the delta of the San Juan River, justifying his action on the border delineation given by Google Maps. Google has since updated this data, which it found to be incorrect. I mean, there's loads more of this, but It's like Google has to edit areas and move stuff, and sometimes it can go wrong.
Keeping people happy on that, it's not going to be easy.
Mad. Yeah, and 1990s when they did that, and that was when Mazda Eunice Cosmo, first production car with built-in sat-nav. Then by 2000, the US military was like, actually, we'll make GPS accurate again for the general public. And that's, I think it was hard to find a date for it, but 2004 is when Yahoo Maps came out, and so they preceded Google Maps was Yahoo Maps, and MapQuest turn-by-turn directions was even before Yahoo. So I don't know when though. I couldn't find a date of when they did that, but I think now they boast 34 million people a month use it, but realistically they're probably just blagging it.
Who?
Who? Yeah. And then 2005 was Google Maps, and 2012 was Apple Maps. So quite a bit later.
Well, I just reminded me, I haven't heard MapQuest for ages, but Lonely Island album called Incredibad, which was one of the first I ever had on my iPod, so I listened to it like ad nauseum when I was a teenager. One of the lines is like, I prefer a MapQuest, that's a good one too. Google Maps is the best, true that, double true. So I couldn't find out what year that song was. So I think that would be the most relevant lyric.
I
The song's called Lazy Sunday, by the way, by Leno. It's not a great song, but for some reason just popped in my head.
They have some great lit songs.
They do have some, and Andy
So
Sandberg's great.
Yeah, I thought Apple owned TomTom to make its maps, but it turns out that's actually they just use some of their data and they don't use their data anymore. I thought that was a thing.
So this is it. So it was yo, where's the movie playing? Up the west side, dude. Well, let's hit up Yahoo Maps to find the dopest route. I prefer a MapQuest. That's a good one too. Google Maps is the best. True that, double true. So there you go. And that was on. Let me tell you.
I should put that in the show description.
2005.
Just that.
So there you go.
What? That's crazy.
So yeah, that was the song was released in 2005.
So moving on to other fun stuff. Did anyone check out fun things you can find on Google Street View or anything about Google Street View's licensing or anything like that?
I know you can find Freddie on Google Street View.
Yes, you can find me in Osuna on Google Street View.
That's very cool. There's a guy falling down the stairs, and it's like when you zoom around, it's like he's falling down the stairs slightly more. Like it's not like a load of stairs. It's like a comical amount of stairs, and it's not like a tragic amount of stairs.
Can I give you a list of some fun things?
It's like a couple of steps. I mean, rather than.
So you can find people fake skiing, like with props. You can find an army of people dressed as pigeons in Tokyo. You can find an animal being run over by the Street View car.
Jesus, that's cheering.
Because you can see ahead and there's the animal, and then you can see behind and there's the remains.
Oh, Jesus.
There's two guys on a bike transporting a dentist chair in Bangladesh. A royal wedding, apparently, or some sort of wedding with a horse-drawn carriage is seen in London. Lots of creepy scarecrows in Finland. People dressed up in just basically lots of weird stuff all over the place. And there's one other that I found funny. Oh, people looks like shooting each other with bows and arrows, and people having a wee on the side of the street. But
I feel like some of that's more performative than others. I think the last one maybe less so.
Yeah, but it's kind of cool. Like, it is strange because you just get a snapshot of time as the car is going past. Even though we still use, I don't know, it's very stupidly non-philosophical, but like, we use the Street View to get around, but whenever you're looking at the Street View, you're looking at a snapshot out of it on that day, which I just think is really cool.
Mm.
Okay, so just before we finish, is there anything else anyone wants to add before I maybe throw in some controversies?
Not big. It was originally coded on C++ by two Danish brothers. That was a nice little fact for you. That was the initial thing. And then in terms of who owns it, obviously we briefly went over that with Waze and various map questions.
Fair enough. Johnny, you're good?
Yeah, actually, I'm all good.
Okay, excellent. Well, I just thought I'd finish off.
Controversies.
Well, basically, as we mentioned, Kashmir and Palestine are both a bit dodge on the Google Maps. Also, people such as the Australian Nuclear Science and Technology Organisation have complained for the potential of terrorists to use the satellite images in planning attacks with specific reference to the Lucas Heights nuclear reactor. But the Australian federal government is like, no, it's fine. So cool. they deny that there's a problem. So I guess they've hidden it. Also, in 2014, documents leaked by Edward Snowden revealed that the NSA and the GCHQ intercepted Google Map queries made on smartphones and used them to locate users making those queries. One leaked document stated in 2008 that it effectively meant that anyone using Google Maps on a smartphone is working in support of the GCHQ system. So basically, they can totally follow your data, especially using your timeline. If anyone uses the timeline feature, which I do and I love because I think it's cool seeing where I went, but that is not protected. Like you can lose if you're being a naughty boy.
Basically, don't be naughty. There you go. Easy as. So
Yes.
think of that, the naughty, nice thing. The one quick other thing with the speed cameras. Do you think, obviously having them look at it everywhere is good because it shows you where they are, but it kind of makes you wonder, what is the point of them to make money, or is the point of them to have people drive safer? Because obviously I think there are loads in the UK that are empty boxes, right? Because it's obviously just quite a good deterrent to get people to slow down, which is really the goal.
Surely
in
they
theory,
make
but
their money back really
that's
quickly.
what I mean. You
That's
think they
what
would
I don't
totally make
get.
loads of money on it as well, so yeah.
Yeah, speed camera is something that I'd like to ask about in another episode because I
was
really
thinking
don't
this, yeah.
understand. Like, is the point that we're all meant to go the speed limit to ease traffic and also because it's safe, or is it just like at random areas they're like, oh, can everyone slow down, please?
And there's
Like,
there's definitely some. Well, obviously, if they hide it in a bush, and imagine if they were completely hidden, like you didn't know where they were, they were just like tiny and attached to a lamppost or something. Then people would totally drive safer everywhere. Or if you just got random, probably be, I don't know, be interesting, right? But then people would be like, oh, they're not trying to make them safer. They're just trying to make money, which is
But what I just don't get is like, I don't know, I guess the speed limit's calculated in some way because there are some areas I'm just like, this speed limit is ridiculous. Like it's so low, but occasionally too high. Like I have been in places where I've been like, oh, I'm not going to hit that corner at 70.
all the country roads in the UK, right, where there's like, you couldn't fit two cars down at all, and they're all 60. Like if you're going 60 down there around the corners, yeah, you'd be having trouble. But yeah, but apparently, so anecdotally, this is absolute pub chat. So this is totally not a fact. I would not advocate this. Apparently, speed cameras limit 140 miles an hour. So if you're going faster than 140 miles an hour, then they can't catch you. But
It's got to be like that's you're just breaking it. But
exactly. But like I said, the risk to that probably not super wise in terms of lots of other reasons. But yeah.
Anyway, thank you very much, guys, for chatting with me this week on Google Maps. Fun mini fact I just saw was that in 2013, Google Maps, was downloaded on over 54% of all smartphones on the planet, but that has since changed, especially with the rise of WeChat and other applications. But it's crazy how many people rely on Google Maps. So I hope you guys have enjoyed our little deviation on matters.
A little
locational.
detour, we have a few detours here.
A little detour, yeah. And I guess you'll all join us next week where we talk about another mystery topic, learn something we didn't know yet.
You have finally reached your destination. Took you long enough.